And I couldn't agree more that Lawrence is all of those things. The City Commission, however, I think requires city commissioners who are compassionate, responsible, and have experience in making decisions that affect the lives of all the citizens in Lawrence. I've practiced law for the last 37 years. I've dealt with a lot of complex issues. I've dealt with people who've been fired, people who've been treated poorly, people who are considered not worthy of continued employment. And frankly, I think that's one of the issues that the City Commission is asked to face. Importantly, however, the City Commission is also required to deal with a lot of sort of mundane issues, land planning, issues which are, frankly, can be quite boring. But one of the things that's important for a community to be successful, to have a place where the issues that Caleb addresses can be addressed, is that you have a vibrant, stable community that accepts people as they are, a city government that helps people as they can, and a commission that values the interests of all of the community. I want to serve again. I served for 4 years from 2003 until 2007.
The question is, what is your plan for making traffic and pedestrian workflow more efficient in Lawrence? Or how would you prioritize applying the Complete Streets initiative in comparison to other city projects? You have 60 seconds.
Lawrence has, for the past 25 years, made a number of strategic errors in its transportation planning. We have very few crosstown streets. We have a great difficulty in accommodating multiple modes of transportation. For some reason, city planners have believed that a stripe on the street is the same as a safe place for a person to ride a bicycle. I don't believe that's true, and unfortunately, past city commissions have made decisions which are making, for example, the expansion of South Iowa difficult. It's so expensive because they've given away the right-of-way at the Home Depot location. In my mind, transportation is always going to be a problem in Lawrence. It costs $1 million a mile to replace existing streets. $1 million a mile is money that we'll have a very difficult time coming up with. A complete transportation matrix involving pedestrians, buses, cars, and bicycles is imperative as we move forward.
And it says, speak to the state of affordable housing in Lawrence.
That's a great question.
In 60 seconds, I can barely list the number of causation factors that cause housing to be expensive in Lawrence. One is it's a popular place to live. Two, there's a limited amount of land supply. Three, there are very few people who own a lot of land and control the price of that land. Four, wages in this town are stagnant. When I was on the City Commission in 2003 and 4, we passed the first living wage ordinance in the history of the city. We have too many people who are working here who cannot afford to live here. And the issue about, we'll be talking about affordable housing here for as long as Lawrence is a popular place to live. If I'm an engineer, I can afford X for housing. If I'm working at a manual job making $8 or $9 an hour, my choices are significantly more limited. We need to find a way to bring better paying jobs to Lawrence in order for people to be able to afford to live in Lawrence. You can't have one without the other. Affordability doesn't exist for those who don't have a good job.
Where do you think growth in Lawrence should be directed in the future? Address retail developments such as the South Point project.
I think growth is more about what than where. We should create jobs that add value, jobs that pay a wage that enables people to live in Lawrence. Relying on an expanding retail base is not sound long-term policy. People without substantial resources will not be buying enough product to support an expanding retail base. We can talk about big box stores, but more importantly, we need to talk about what kind of jobs we want to recruit in Lawrence that will enable us to have a proper growth base, tax base, with which the city can provide all of the things it feels are necessary: infrastructure, compassionate issues, homelessness issues, affordable housing issues. All of those come from and directly are the result of value-added jobs, not jobs that pay $8, $9, and $10 an hour that do not give you the ability to live in Lawrence.
What qualities will you look for in our new city manager?
I was fortunate enough to be on the city commission when we hired the last city manager, and I've hired a number of people over the years. It's a challenging task, and I looked when we hired David Corliss. I wanted somebody who could be objective, somebody who could be blunt, somebody who could be honest, somebody who had a technical ability to understand how to build city budgets, how to manage city employees. Not somebody who was a technician, but somebody who understood the technical aspects and the legal aspects of managing a city the size of Lawrence. I think the greatest weakness in any leader of any corporate operation, and Lawrence is, in fact, let's be honest, a corporate operation, spending hundreds of millions of dollars every year of your tax money. You need somebody who is not going to be beholden to any particular group of the community. Their goal is to serve the entire community. They can't be afraid to be honest, blunt, frank, and upfront with all of the advice they give to the City Commission, who are, as Jeff indicated, are all lay people serving without necessarily any particular expertise.
And the question is, how would you address current and future needs of the Lawrence Police Department?
Policing isn't a building. Policing is the people who are policemen whose job is not in a building somewhere, but in the community where they are performing valuable and important services. We have a West Satellite right now. At 15th and Wakarusa, there's a police facility there, as well as our police facility at the courthouse. I don't believe I would support, without a heck of a lot more information than I have right now, a $28 million police facility. I don't think it's so high on our list of priorities that it should take precedence over a lot of other more pressing issues. I do believe upgrading our facilities is important. I believe we have room at the 15th and Wakarusa location to increase the usable capacity there. It's got a west side component. The current courthouse facility has additional space that might be made available. I wouldn't discount Jeff's suggestion. It might have some value.
The entire northeast quadrant of Lawrence is a federally designed food desert. The former Borders building is the only viable site to address this community health issue with a full-line affordable grocery store. How can the city of Lawrence make this happen?
There's been a lot of talk for quite a while about a grocery store at the Borders location. I don't know whether a grocery store there is economically viable. People who know the grocery business will have to make that decision. I don't know what role the city of Lawrence should play in making that investment decision. Clearly, there's a tremendous amount of competition in Lawrence in the grocery business. Much of it, obviously, is not in a location which serves the northeast quadrant of the city. To the extent that the city can provide assistance in fee abatements and other in-kind services to the folks who might want to put in a grocery store, I think those ought to be strongly considered. But the ultimate question of where grocery stores will be located will have to lie with the people who have that investment, and will have to make a decision about whether a grocery store, if installed at the Borders store, can be successful long-term.
The question is, Lawrence is a diverse community, but it has become clear that we have an equity problem with various groups and individuals lacking adequate representation in government. Please discuss the importance of this issue to you and how you, as a city commissioner, will work to ensure underrepresented groups have a voice.
Well, the first time I ran for office, well, actually before I ran, I said, why would anybody want to run for office? After I ran for office, I asked myself, why would anybody want to run for office? And I'm sitting up here now and I'm wondering, why does anybody want to run for office? The question that you've asked is, how does the city encourage folks to put themselves out on a limb and for public examination to participate in public dialogue, public decision-making, to represent their interests irrespective of their race, their age, their sex, their sexual orientation. All of those things are important to be considered, but I don't know of a way to force people to want to participate. Removing barriers, making things open and available is something the city can do, but I don't know how you can force people to put themselves out for public examination. And I would close with, when you think about it, why does anyone want to put themselves out for public examination? It's a difficult task and a difficult thing to ask anyone to do.
What skills and experience do you possess that would help restore the public's confidence in the financial acumen of the City Commission? You have 60 seconds.
I served on the City Commission for 4 years, 2003 to 2007, participated in building multiple budgets with the city, participated in building the, didn't actually build it, but participated in the planning for the building of the fire station at 19th and Stewart, participated in a great many study sessions about how city budgets are built. And my real job, my day-to-day job, is as an attorney managing a staff of 3 attorneys, several outside attorneys, a budget of about $500,000, representing teachers across the state in employment disputes. So I have a fairly broad background in both city budgeting and at-work budgeting. I think those are qualities. My experience as an analytical thinker, an independent person, I'm not affiliated with any particular group in town that is builders, developers, whatever. I believe I bring that to the table as a commissioner, and my record demonstrates that.
The question is, of the decisions made by the City Commission in the last 2 years, which would be the one you would rescind or modify? If you would modify it, how would you try and improve it?
I think the biggest failure, and from decision-making perspective, the last couple of years is the failure of the commission to develop a team. I think there was a failure to create a team atmosphere on the commission. I think there were a lot of mixed messages sent from this dais to the community. Rock Chalk was among them. The grant on the Mississippi issue was one. It's not 5 individuals up here. It's 5 people trying to make a decision that's the best thing for the community, and the failure to develop a team concept that permits people to disagree. Not everybody has to vote the same way. But the fact of the matter is that unless and until this body develops a list of priorities about what its team's going to accomplish during its term in the next 15 or 20 or 30 years, we'll look back and the story of the community will be one where they failed to follow the rules they established. They failed to have a list of priorities that they followed. That, I think, was the biggest failing of the last couple of years.
What is your top priority that has not been mentioned so far?
Our top priority needs to be to figure out what our top priority is. And the fact of the matter is, as a commissioner, you're faced with multiple decisions every week, all across the board. Social issues, mental health issues, land planning issues, traffic issues, police department issues, city union negotiation issues. But unless and until there's some understanding on this body about what our priorities as a city are, and not just think about them differently each week, but have some long-term, longitudinal thinking about what will make this a better place to live for everyone who lives here, we will be asking somebody during the next election cycle, what's your top priority? Now's the time to talk about developing those top priorities rather than waiting until 6 months have gone by and then there's an ad hoc decision-making process that interferes with whatever prioritization has occurred before.